Hey, welcome to Mad Dog's After Show. You're up and running with the Mad Dog and Cole, the feral cat. Feral.
If you can't win, just put him in the wall.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait.
Man, those are inspiring words. I mean, we're 97 episodes in, and I'm still not tired of them. Incredible Evel Knievel, the original Daredevil, all-American, patriot, sometimes not a great dude, but flying through the air, living in the sunlight, and enjoying life. Man, what a motto.
Yeah, and we couldn't fly through the air or be a good dude or sometimes not a good dude if we didn't have our first responders.
Absolutely.
And also the brave men and women of our armed forces. Literally couldn't do this podcast without them. They protect our freedom of speech so we can go here and rabble about the things we want to rabble about.
Yep, absolutely. And a special heartfelt shout out to the families of those in our military that gave all, the families of the MIA and KIA. Deep respect and prayers for y'all. Man, we need to get our sponsors and partners up to date with y'all. Of course, Kicker Performance Audio, Kicker Marine Audio, Kicker Real Marine Audio. Find them online, kicker.com, on Instagram at Kicker Audio, on Facebook, Kicker, every other Tuesday night, 7:30 Central, live on their TV show, Kicker Unmasked Live, on YouTube and Facebook. They just had a great episode about audio, snake oil, if you will. Thoroughly enjoyed it. J-Dub, Ern, and the crew do a great job. Tune in, check them out. Of course, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear, Bomber Badass Eyewear, BomberEyewear.com, the only Mad Dog approved eyewear out there. Over 40 styles of frames. I don't even know how many styles of lenses. Everything you could possibly want. Look them up, BomberEyewear.com, or on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. By the way, they float. Of course, our dude Cole at the Premix Podcast, our producer extraordinaire, doing all the button pushing and levering and stuff like that behind the scenes during the podcast, and sharing his passion for all things desert racing through the lens of a camera. If he's going to be at one of your desert races coming up soon, slide into his DMs over on Instagram at The Premix Podcast. That's the @ symbol, ThePremixPodcast at The Premix Podcast. And hit him up. Get him lined out. He's also available for your MC and announcer needs, booking in 2025. Same deal. Slide into his DMs at the Premix Podcast on Instagram. Of course, Kelsey Morel Film. Find her on Instagram at Kelsey Morel Film. All your film needs, from pre-production planning to post-production and everything in between, including still photo work and making beautiful videos for our YouTube channel over at Mad Dog Media of the hellacious mess we make on screen every week. With this podcast, she sorts it out, fixes it up, handles the audio, and gets us out there. We really appreciate it. Of course, Hey Geeks Marketing, taking care of all our social media templates, logos, stuff like that. For all your creative needs, social media needs, or website needs, yell Hey Geeks or find her online, heygeeks.com, or on Instagram at Hey Geeks Marketing. Man, while we're giving shout outs, I want to give a special shout out to my brother over at Valor Wheels, Mr. Brian Myers. Thank you for the hookup. You know what you did, buddy. I really appreciate your help. Dude, much love. Check them out, Valor Wheels. Fans and people who aren't fans. I don't really care. Our dude, Scottie Deubler. Welcome aboard. Welcome along for the ride.
Man, it's good to be back on the ride. It's been a little bit, so it's good to see your face. I missed you at the first 4 rounds of Edurocross, and I think I missed you at a couple of rounds of flat track this year. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, I've only got to see a couple rounds this year in flat track, and unfortunately not doing any of the Edurocross. And man, we're gonna get to that because I've been following, and holy cow, woo-wee. But first, we want to make sure and shout out Off the Groove podcast. Scotty's podcast comes out every Friday.
Yeah.
Go to Instagram and follow at Off the Groove TV. And make sure you tune in and listen, because he's always got insightful updates, some behind the scenes stuff. Obviously he's in the know and always working, so it's definitely worth a listen. And if you get tired of listening to me, Scotty's is only like 15 to 25 minutes long, so
Well, it depends on if I have any guests on or not. But yeah, I just try to, give the latest and results, breaking news. And, one of my favorite segments is actually my stat of the week. And I just try to think of stuff that the normal everyday fan wouldn't think of, or, what's the biggest, hottest stat right now, winners, most wins, tracks, track records, anything like that. So that's one of my favorite segments.
While we're on flat track, I want to bounce something off you, because I've talked to several people, and jury's out about 50-50 with the people I've talked to. But do you think that JD Beach will pull off the Grand Slam in his career? I mean, he's still pretty young.
Well, I really, really wish he would have jumped on a bike at the Springfield Mile, because he rode 3 races with us this season, and he got a second and 2 wins. He got second at Peoria, which I would have marked him down with a big marker as a winner of that race, and he goes out there and gets second. Nothing against Breyer. Breyer just beat him that day, but I would have thought he would have won that one and not would have won Rapid City. So he won Rapid City, his first half-mile win, which was cool. So he had the momentum. He's on the momentum train. I really wish he would have got a chance to ride Springfield this year, because, you're feeling it, and you shook off the cobwebs of not being on dirt for almost a full year. He was feeling good. I just wish he would have had the opportunity this year. That being said, with Indian gone, it's going to make it a little bit easier in the future. But will he get an opportunity to ride another top-notch bike like the Essence and Yamaha? That's the question, I guess. And I think he can do it. I think he's going to have to do it within the next couple of seasons. He is getting older. Back in the day, flat trackers would make it all the way to their 40s.
Right.
Well, look at Jared Meese. He's leaving before he turns 40, or, getting close to it. So JD's got, I think, in the next 2 to 3 years, 1, 2, or 3 years, I think if he's going to do it, he needs to do it right now.
Yeah. Interesting. I kind of feel the same way. I feel like maybe he's got a little more time, but I'm not as intelligent and in depth with the flat track community as you are. But there's not, and there's a side of me that honestly is a JD Beach fanboy. So I kind of like his just gunslinger approach. It seems like to anything. Like I've even when he's riding the Beamer at was it American GP? Is that what they call it now?
Moto America.
Moto America.
Yeah.
He's still got that MX. Like he brings parts in watching a couple of the races. He brings parts of flat track TT and MX with the body movement and stuff into Moto America, which is kind of Moto America, Moto GP. You see a lot of cookie cutter riders, if you will, anymore.
Right.
And it didn't used to be that way. I mean, when you go back to the days of like, Russell and Gobert and Taka, and I mean, those guys, Rainey, those guys, everybody had a different style. Everybody rode different, so
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to see. I don't know what the level of his particular bike is at Moto America. It's a 2-bike team, and his teammate seems to perform better. And I don't know if it's comfortability with the bike, if you will, or if it's a bike, B bike situation, because everybody will say, "Oh, those don't exist." If we have 2 riders, we have 2 A riders, and horseshit.
Yeah.
That's not always.
Every bike's different. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what sport. It doesn't matter, what you're racing. If you got a primary bike and you got a backup bike and they can be set up identical, shocks all the way down to the fork fluid. I mean, like they can be set up the same, but no matter what, there's characteristics that those bikes have, and every bike I've ridden rides different than the other one. I mean, they cannot be identical. There's just something that's a little bit different, whether it's a weld here or geometry or whatever. But and I'm not saying that JD's on a backup bike. I'm not saying that he's on a B bike either.
Right.
And maybe part of it is too that he hasn't been with that team very long. Maybe they're not getting it set up just the way he likes it. Or maybe the BMW just reacts so much different than what he's normally used to road racing. So I'm not giving up on him winning on that bike. I just think he needs a little bit more seat time, and I don't even know if he's got to deal with them, for next year. But on that note, Mad Dog, I thought it was so cool that they let him come race flat track for 3 rounds, and they didn't have to, and they took a risk. They're taking a chance because if he gets hurt racing flat track, that looks bad to their sponsors. But at the same time, it did shed light on him. He got a lot of eyeballs for what he did, especially live, or not live, but especially being on Fox, not on Fox Sports, not on FS1, not on FS2, but being on Fox. People, if they Google JD Beach, they're going to find out who he's road racing for. And maybe that's more eyeballs going to follow him as well. So I thought it was a win-win for them, but it was a huge risk for that road race team to let him ride flat track. And I'm grateful they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I had thought about that when they announced. I'm like, that's pretty stand up of the team, especially because it's not even the same brand, right? I mean, they're a BMW team. Granted, it's 2 completely different disciplines, and BMW isn't involved that we know of yet in American flat track. But still, going back to his old team on a Yamaha, it's like you said, a big risk and ballsy move for them, but smart. Whoever made the decision should be patted on the back. And hindsight's 2020. If he crashed and broke his femur, he probably wouldn't get any pats on the back, right? But
but no, it all worked out, and it again, a huge nod of the cap, tip of the cap, or whatever to that road race team for letting him do that. And there was rumors going around that he might even ride a BMW in that the adventure tracker class. That didn't come to fruition, but maybe it will in the future. And maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that team comes over to flat track. I mean, who knows? I mean, I'm
Well,
not spreading
sure.
any rumors, but it's a
Right.
possibility.
Well, Estenson went to Moto America, right?
Right.
So, I
Right.
mean, they had a Yamaha over there. I don't know if they still do.
I
I
don't know either.
I only follow their flat track side,
Yeah.
but that's where JD got his, his win at Moto America. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, interesting. I mean, yeah, there's a whole lot of possibilities. I would pay money to watch him on an adventure bike on a TT track.
Well, it could happen. You know, it was fun watching Sammy Halbert, who could
Yes.
barely even touch the ground. I mean, I think he was tiptoeing on both sides, and
Yeah.
you know, it was brand new to everybody. The bikes didn't look that bad out there when they got going. I know, you know, like Robbie Bobby and some of the others were stopping and doing burnouts before they started. Well, everybody thought they were just goofing around and showing off. Well, they're trying to heat up those tires because they want
Yeah.
those tires to be sticky. And you know, but it was part of the show. It's part of being in Sturgis. It's
Sure.
part of having fun too. But yeah, I don't know what's next for the adventure tracker class, but you know, there was a couple of Harleys, there's a big Triumph team was represented, and you
Yes.
know, the two Saddleman Harleys, and you know, Dan Bromley on that, you know, the Trans Alp Honda, which unfortunately for him, he lost that because of a relay switch on his kickstand that came
Yeah.
down and turned the motorcycle off, of all things. But you know, if that class comes back next year, I would like to see more brands out there. But you know, for a first time event, I thought it went over pretty well.
Yeah, I thought it was highly entertaining. And there's a lot of brands, like you said, that weren't represented that do have dual sports. Yamaha, has their Tenere,
Hmm.
or their Tenere 700, which, you think, well, the 700 against 1,000 or 1,100 bikes, but those 700s are agile,
Right.
right? And that is a huge thing. CF Moto, my good buddy Ronnie Brenner, has been helping develop their big adventure bike, and I guess it's something to behold. I saw they just won something. I can't remember what it was, but they just won, like, uh gosh, what was it? Anyways, just won some race. And you're like, who?
Right.
CF Moto.
Exactly. Right.
Well, so there's a lot of bikes um, out there in that adventure class that certainly could be, and some teams that are already in AFT, Rick Ware Racing, that's KTM,
Right.
uh, you
The
know,
Duke, the Super Duke, or you know, whatever.
yeah,
You know, and part of that too is, you know, just like NASCAR, you know, the older NASCAR, you could tell what kind of car that was out there. Well, you could see it race on Saturday or Sunday, and you could go buy that same car supposedly on Monday. Well,
right.
with this class, you know, so many brands have an adventure bike, you know, and so many people ride them, you know, street, dirt, it doesn't matter, and ride them to the races, and then where they see it on the racetrack. So you know, I don't want that to be the premier class. I like it
Right.
as a bonus class. And you know, if anything to get more eyeballs on the sport of flat track, that's what I'm about.
For sure. And I think AFT needs it. They don't run an amateur program, if you will. The singles class is so unbelievably fast and competitive now that they need something, what I would call a support class, right? You know
Yep.
what I mean? I mean,
Hmm.
not trying to downgrade that class, but it is a support class. It's like, you know, like the NASCAR trucks. You know, they're
Sure.
they're a support class. They are a grow new riders, but they're a support class, and so, or the Indy Lights or whatever they call them now, same
Sure.
type of thing. So I think it would help the program, the entire AFT program, to have another class like that. I know some guys called it a circus, but I think the racing was far from a circus.
It definitely was. And, if you there was just a couple of big names or normal names in our sport there, but they brought in some people from all over the world, not just our
Yeah.
country, but to ride those bikes. And like I said, if it brings eyeballs to our sport, that's what we need. And we don't need, I don't think, that class at every racetrack. I don't want to see those bikes on the mile, honestly, or maybe
No.
even the half mile. But if you bring them in for the short tracks and the TTs, and I don't even know if Peoria would be a good one for those bikes. I don't know what those things would do when they catch air, big air like at Peoria. But I think if anything, more eyeballs to the sport, and maybe even more manufacturers would get involved in our sport, because they could, if they get involved, get their foot in the door with American Flat Track, then maybe they would broaden their horizon and get in the singles class, or even, take a chance to move up to the premier class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm for them racing at Peoria, and I'm for AFT bringing back the Super TT at Arizona and put them on that track, because
That would be cool.
man, the Super Twins hucked the finish tabletop.
Oof.
So
Yeah.
why? I mean, they were hucking it that day. That was nuts.
That was awesome.
Why not the adventure bikes? I mean, let's see what they're made of, right?
Yeah, you could definitely tell who's the men and who's the boys when we get to a track with a big, it's an off-road truck, track,
Yeah.
trophy truck track, and JD and just a couple others were clearing that finish line tabletop it was over 100 feet, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine getting a twin cylinder motorcycle, first of all, that far in the air, and then jumping it that far. I know for a fact the Estenson team had special chassis just for that track, because
Wow.
they had them beefed up and more gussets on them to support the landing. And the one thing that JD was better than anybody else, he was grabbing one more gear before he hit that finish line jump,
Yeah.
and just that little bit extra that nobody else was doing. But he was sending it, man. It was awesome.
It was crazy. I was blessed enough to be for that one. Blessed enough to be during practice right down trackside and watching them, and holy cow! Like when you're down there at ground zero, it's even bigger than it looks on TV. I mean, you're like, this is designed, like you said, for trophy trucks and
Right.
and competition buggies and side by sides with 18 inches of suspension travel.
Right.
Not
not a
4
flat track
inches
bike.
yeah, not a flat track bike. So
Right.
but yeah, it's just, yeah, that was entertaining. I'd love to see him bring that one back. But while we're talking about hucking it, dude, I want to shift gears and jump into because you've been hitting you are the premier trackside reporter, and you doing color commentary too
For Endurocross, or
for Edurocross? Yeah, sorry, AMA Endurocross.
Yeah, so just for Endurocross, I'm the live event announcer, and I'm there. I'm more like the hype man, but I also tell people what's going on. I want people to be aware, because you got to think, Mad Dog, of how many new fans are walking in there that don't know what's happening. So I explain the program and explain, like the first race of the night, the expert class. Well, the top 6 finishers get to move into the back of the pro class. Well, that's big.
That's
because
huge.
those guys, they want to be in the top 10. That's one less race they get to run. So I'm there to hype the crowd, have fun. Kristen Beat's been doing some of the pit reporting, and then they brought in a new girl named Erica at the last 2 rounds, because Kristen was up at Vancouver doing World Supercross,
Right.
and she did a fantastic job. The TV crew is actually Daniel Blair, who was doing Supercross for a while, and Destry Abbott.
Yeah,
and
Destry's
they make a good team. And Destry, it's cool for Destry because he does a school on the night before, and trying to help these guys and girls get better at the sport. They'll work on one particular segment for a while, and then give everybody a chance, and they go to the next segment of the racetrack. So it's not like they're getting full laps in. They're working on different skills, and I think that's really cool for our riders to learn from one of the best to ever throw a leg over an off-road motorcycle.
Oh yeah, for sure. And on top of it, Destry's a great guy, a good friend. And it's funny when we had him on the show, Cole was just, you know, he was struck because he's been a Destry Abbott fan forever, right? He
Right.
had he had Destry Abbott's poster on his wall when he was a kid. And so I called him out right off the get-go,
Good.
and which was good because he was able to get comfortable. A lot of jokes going around about KX 500s, and Cole's won a couple of number one plates down in California, AMA plates on the KX 500. So, at one point, I think him and Destry had gone off in KX 500 land, and I'm like,
You're just listening.
yeah, I was having a great time. But no, Destry's great and so technical. And of course I'd seen a bunch. I knew who he was. I've been a fan, but then the first Endurocross I ever went to, I think was in Denver, and he was racing in like the vet class, and he he was out there. It was incredible. I'll never forget it because he hole shot everybody, and by the second lap he had probably half a lap lead,
Right.
and went down in the wood pile. And instead of panicking and jumping up and going crazy, picked the bike up. He gets on the bike. He rode off the track over, and I think Cooper was standing there. He had bent lever or bent handlebar or something, and Cooper helped him straighten it. And he dropped the last. And dude, in I think a lap and a half, he was back in the lead. He was probably 5 seconds back, and he just put on a clinic. And it's like, I gave him a hard time about that. When we had him on the show, because I was like, dude, you should have, that ride you put on, you should have really been in the pro class. I said, that was just mean.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly entertaining to watch because, until then, I didn't have anything tangible or physical I could put to his level of talent, right?
Right.
And that's why I encourage people to go out to all kinds of racing, whether it's stock car racing, flat track racing, endurocross, arena cross, supercross, whatever, any kind of racing, jet ski racing. Get out and watch some racing because it helps you put a tangible behind what it takes for people to be the best at what they do. And it's crazy.
And you know what? On that note, TV doesn't do any justice to any motorsport out there. I mean, you put on a NASCAR race and they're going 200 miles an hour, but the cameras are so good and so clear. It looks like they're just going by like this. But if you go there and feel it, you can smell it, you can hear it, and it's a sensory overload. But man, it's so much better. I mean, like my one of my favorite things is as a little kid going into the Springfield Mile for the very first time and walking through the front gate because my grandpa was displaying his motorcycle out front in the vintage parking lot or whatever, and just walking in the front gate and walking straight up to the finish line and watch them go by like this. And it's just like, you can't put that into words. I mean,
No.
And every form of motorsport's a little bit different than that. Of course, they're not going to have the speed in some of the things you're talking about, some of the other sports we're talking about, but just to see the skill and to see it all in person is so much better than on TV.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And case in point, I have watched drag racing my whole life. I've done some motorcycle drag racing. But I'd never been to a Top Fuel event. And so I had the opportunity to go hang out with my buddy Clay Milliken, who's also, shout out Rick Ware Racing.
Ware.
Yeah, because I got to meet Rick in Sturgis actually. what a
Okay.
nice guy, you know.
Super cool.
I thought he
Yeah.
was just rad. So, and I love Clay. Clay's just, you know, one of the best guys ever out there. And so, anyway, I had the opportunity to go to the Vegas four wides, and we hung out in his pit, and you know, just hung out there and got up there, and one of his guys said, "Man, you need to be mid-track down for the first set of runs. Like, get out there." And because we were there for practice day or qualifying, and then the following day for all the eliminations. And so I was everywhere from, I ended up posting up everywhere from the start line to the finish. But like you said, you TV doesn't do it justice at all. It's,
Mm-mm.
you know, it's in your chest. I was so close at one point when they went by that it actually made me dizzy. And you
Yeah.
like, you're never going to get that from TV,
Nope,
right?
nope.
So get out in person, folks. This is our plea. Get out to a motorsports event. Go to your local dirt track. Go to your local short track. Go to your local motocross track. Watch some live sports.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely worth it, you know, and motorsports for sure. But, you know, even a football game, you know, because when you're watching any kind of sport, all you get to see what's on TV. But if you go
Yep.
there in person, you can turn your head left, you can turn your head right, you can see what's going on in the pits or in the parking lot, or, you know, who knows, whatever, you know, and yeah, just live stuff's so much better. But yeah, the Endurocross season kicked off. You know, we've already got 4 rounds in the books, and
Yeah.
man, this is probably the most competitive season I've seen so far. Going into Idaho Falls, the top 7 in the points were on 7 different brands of motorcycles.
Wow.
And this is the crazy thing to me, not one single Japanese brand in those 7.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that. Wow. I didn't even think about that.
It's crazy. And then there's a new brand that I've never even heard of before this season started. And I feel like maybe it's because I'm old, or maybe it's because I don't like to read or whatever, but Rieju,
Yeah.
it's the Spanish built motorcycle. Dominic Oshoi's riding it, and he's a Polish rider, but he's moved over to Spain to help develop this motorcycle. He went out there and won a moto on this bike. And then that's just one of the new storylines. You got Triumph back involved with Johnny Walker, which is a British brand motorcycle, and then Johnny Walker's from great, you know, from the UK. That's a hell of a combination. Man, it's been exciting so far, and we still have a couple rounds to go.
I noticed what was it in the first 2 races, that's 6 main events, they have 5 different winners. Is that right?
That is correct. Tristan Hart's the only one that, as far as the first 2 rounds, he won Moto 1 of both of them. But other than that, it was different winners. I think what we had, Walker, LeBlanc won his first ever main event, which was cool. And then when we go to Prescott, it was Hart, Oshoi, and Colton Haker. So again, 3 more winners. And man, that was just getting it going. And then we went to Idaho Falls, was the last round that I went to, I think, depending on when this episode comes out. But, you know, you go to Idaho, you got to throw Colton Haker in the mix because he's a 5-time champ. When you go to your home state or your home turf, you know, you step it up. And the first night, he spanked him in the first moto. The second moto, they invert the field. He went out there and won that one. The third race, Tristan Hart tracked him down at the end, and there's a little controversy or little scuffle after the finish line. And I've seen it from different views, but at the race where I was standing on, you know, by the podium, going up the jump, you know, I think Colton Haker was just trying to defend his line, and he may have kind of went over a little bit and maybe threw a whip. You know, he's going to celebrate. He got the overall, even if he got past going to the line. Well, Tristan Hart had nowhere to go, and his front wheel touched Colton's back wheel. He went down, and it was a pretty big double. You know, they don't really
Yeah.
call them doubles in Endurocross, but a big tire stack, jump into a pile of dirt, it's a double, and Tristan goes down. There's some words said afterwards, and the crowd loved it, which made for an even exciting second night. And then we go out there and 3 different winners again the second night. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, and the points kind of tightened up a little bit, but the Haker won all 3 the first night, got the overall. Well, the second night, Tristan Hart, Colton Haker, and Johnny Walker were all tied with 4 points going into the last race. If you have a
Dang.
3-way tie going into that final moto, man, it made it so exciting. So basically, whoever wins out of those 3 gets the overall.
Right.
And it was really, really good. And Johnny Walker got the overall win on the Triumph. And he got out front. It seemed like Tristan got hung up in some traffic. And I think Colton just couldn't keep the pace with Walker. I mean, it was a good battle, but nobody was touching Walker that night. So the Triumph got the overall win of the last race. So he moved to second in the points behind Tristan. Tristan's just been so consistent, first or seconds at every single moto. So he's got the lead, and with 2 rounds to go, he's got a pretty good chance of defending his title.
That's pretty impressive, really, with as tough as the competition is this year. And, huge shout out. You're talking about all these brands and joining the series and coming in and winning and international riders. Man, huge shout out to Todd and his crew for really persevering and, believing that Endurocross needs to exist, because those first couple of years that he brought it back, it was kind of lean. I mean, the coverage wasn't as good as it is now. And now, I will bet you have as many viewers in the US as you do internationally. It's always been huge internationally, but the US has been slow to follow suit, right? And at least that's the way I've seen it. And
Yep.
but now it's grown to the point you have all these OEMs involved, and the fan base is just growing like crazy all around the world.
Yeah, the hard enduros and stuff like that are they're bigger overseas, but it's getting more popular over here. And again, you can go to a dealership, buy an off road bike. I know some of the guys are using motocross bikes, but get an off road bike and go racing. The top 10 going into round number 5. We got 3 riders from the United States in the top 10. You got 2 from Canada, 1 from the UK, 1 from Australia, 1 from Poland, and 1 from Germany.
Wow.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, like
Yeah.
I said, one of the most competitive seasons we've had so far, and I'm excited for these final 2 rounds and to see if anybody's going to catch Tristan Hart.
Well, that's awesome, and I know the coverage, the social media stuff that I've got to watch. I haven't got to tune into any on TV, but I've watched a lot of the social media, and not just from Endurocross, but from all the other. Of course, I follow all those guys, follow the manufacturers, and it's been exciting, and it's been challenging. It's not they're not riding a D rider course.
Those tracks are so hard. And what I like about it too is, if you've never been to an Endurocross, like I said, you start with the expert class, but then you've got a veteran class, riders over 30. You've got a novice class, an intermediate class, a junior class, which is riders 12 to 17 years old. We have a women's pro class too. And to see like the pro moto, and then to follow it up with a novice or an intermediate, that makes the crowd appreciate just how tough that course really is. Because, if I went out there to try to do a lap, I'm probably 30 seconds slower than those pro riders. And that's not an exaggeration. It's just, that's how good the level of the pro riders are. I mean, it's just incredible to watch what they do, how they think about making that obstacle not an obstacle, wheeling
Right.
over it, or jump from one thing to another that I would never even have thought of. And it's just, I'm in awe of the pro class riders for sure.
Yeah, was it last week? Was it in Idaho where I saw him? So one of the top guys was almost doubling into the matrix or the woodpile or the boulders or something.
It was the rock pile. Yeah. So they had and it started in practice. Todd and I think one of the photographers that helps with the social media were standing there, and Oshowee did it first, and they were jumping a double, and then they were coming down a pretty big down slope, and then there was like a log by itself, so it's like a single,
Right.
and then it was going back up the hill, but then there was a log, and then a whole bunch of rocks. Well, all of a sudden, here comes Oshowee and just pinned it and just jumped from the bottom, jumped right into the rocks, and just. I'm like, and they're big rocks, they're not little itty bitty pebbles.
No, they're
like
boulders.
Yeah. And just to take that chance. Well, then of course, when that happened, it took a few laps, but a couple of the other riders started figuring it out, and it was definitely faster, but it depended on how you landed and where you landed in that rock pile as to what happened next. So I think that's where Colton Haker actually got hung up at the end of that rock pile in one of the motos, which kind of probably cost him a little bit. I think he went down, and then his pants got caught on his handlebar. Like he was up over and couldn't get his pants unhooked from the handlebar quick enough. And it's just, things happen in a hurry.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that was probably one of the creativeness comes out,
Yeah.
And again, I try to be on the floor for the first couple of rounds of practice just to try to catch all that stuff and so I can explain, what's going on and why they're doing whatever. But just to be creative. But then also on the very first lap, they're doubling stuff that I'm like, there is no way I'm doing that on the first lap. I mean, I'm older now and wiser, but I don't even know if I would have done it when I raced motocross. I don't know if I was jump what they're jumping right now on the very first lap. It's just insane.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge advantage that the fans have, and is they have you on their side. And cover a little bit about that, because I know you're good at standing down there and eating roost and getting the story but you understand what it takes and to do what they're doing and can put that in terms for the fans. But the other side of it is, like you said, you see them do stuff and you're like, no.
Right. Like I try to let the fans know exactly what they're seeing, how hard that particular move was, or, and the dirt changes every single lap. And, I've been, when we had the Lazy Arena one here, they built a concrete pond in the middle of it, and they were jumping through water, which water on the tires makes it slicker for the next obstacle or two or three because the water continues to drip off the bike. So, it's just, it may be secondhand to us, you and I who've been around motorcycles our whole lives, but you bring in, a third grade kid and he won't even think about what I'm seeing and what he's seeing, same thing. But why is that guy doing that? And is that easier? Is it, or does he just like the jump? Or is he showing off? Or, why is he pulling the front wheel up before he hits that single? It's just, but I try not to dumb it down too for the hardcore fans like you and I. I just, it's hard to get that mix in there. But, I think I look at it as if I'm out there having fun, explaining what's going on, the fans are going to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, what was that last year in Redmond, at the arena there, and you were there, weren't you? I can't remember. Yeah. And, so my dad, my brother, a whole bunch of my family, my nephew, but my great nephew, who was basically born deaf, has had the surgery and is really crazy hyperactive chance taker, great, awesome kid. Little Z is just a little animal, and Katie was hooked my family up with these great tickets right down by the tire jump. Uh, let me see. The finish was on the far side, I think. So on the entrance side, but man, he still wants to go to his papa's place, my brother's place,
Yeah.
and watch the motorbikes, watch uncle's motorbikes on TV.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Well, Cole Trickle crashed his computer. I've never had that happen before. I don't know how you crash a computer, but must have looped it. But anyways, yeah, I'm very humble. I'm very lucky. And like you said, it's a lot of hard work, but I am lucky to have the connections, to have people that trust me enough to hire me. And like I said, England 3 years in a row. I'm very, very grateful for the DTRA over there. And then this year I went on over and did the Dutch flat track. The next week I stayed with different people I never met before. I had, went to a racetrack. We stayed out. I camped out with the riders in a little bitty camper at 45 degrees outside with no heat. But it's an experience that I never, ever would have dreamed of. When I first
Yeah.
got into announcing, first of all, I never thought I'd be, doing the flat track series. That would be a dream to me. The only other thing that I wish I could do that I probably will never get to do is do the World of Outlaws, because Johnny Gibson's not going anywhere. But that'd be one gig I would like to have, is the World of Outlaws. But other than that, I'm trackside. I'm in the pits. I'm in meetings with people that I just still blows me away that I even have these contacts in my phone of who these people are, and just I am a lucky guy. I know it. I know I'm lucky. I know I'm the voice of American flat track, or the voice
Yep.
of flat track, however they say it. I don't give myself that name because, like I said, it's not about me. I I'm not the show. I'm maybe a small part of the show, to depending on which race and which show we're talking about. But I just go there and do my job and try to be as informative as I can, and have fun, and like we talked about when we were talking about Endurocross, just have a blast, and bring my knowledge, and bring I've been involved in motorcycles for 50 years, and just share what I know, even if it's a bit here or a piece here or whatever.
50 years. You don't look a day over 35.
Well, I'm 52, so I was pretty
Wow.
much born into it because my dad had a motorcycle shop. Grandpa raced, and
Yep.
dad raced, and aunts raced, and two uncles raced, and my cousin raced, and it's just we're all into racing. My
For
whole
sure.
dad's side of the family is all into racing. So, they're still my biggest critics. If I make a mistake, they're the first ones that call me out, and that's fine. I need people to keep me on my toes, and
Right.
I don't like making mistakes. I have people text me during different shows and different races and stuff like that, and I welcome it, because if I do mess up on something, I want to be the first one. I want to correct myself, or be the first one to say, "Hey, I screwed up," but no, back to the whole, the question, I did homework before I came on the podcast with you, because I want to be prepared for any question you might throw at me, or I want to be prepared to represent Endurocross the best I can, or I want to be prepared to talk about, whatever sport we might come up or whatever. So, yeah, I am lucky, but yeah, I worked very hard for it.
Yeah, you do, and you certainly humble, underselling yourself. Um, you've put in the legwork, you've put in the track work. I feel like you have the natural God-given ability, have a great voice, and really great color commentator. So you're lucky, but you earned it. It it's like us talking about Mies, right?
Yep.
He's lucky. He's had a fantastic piece of equipment the last 6 or 7, 8 years, 6 years, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But he still had to earn it, right?
Yep. Yep.
Because you still have to be there. Um, at the finish. We actually got into this whole theory. I've collected a first place trophy when I was the only one that finished. And I know people that say, well, come on, really? You're the only one. It's like, well, but
But you were
I
there.
made it to the
Right.
podium, right? So
Exactly.
it's
And to the finish line.
yeah, and we just had this conversation talking to Cole about the 24 hours of Glen Helen, where they finished, I think, third out of four finishers, and he kind of undersold it. And I'm like, dude, still, it's a 24-hour race. You started with, I think they started with, what they start with, five riders, six riders, finished with two. Um, went through
Yeah.
two motorcycles, and you had to be there to get the podium. Okay, you're a couple laps down. They're
Still did it.
22-minute laps at Glen Helen. It's still more than I could do. So, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
still did it. You still caught the podium, and it's like you put in all the work to get to where you're at. I know you're humble, and you do, you know, too humble at times, probably.
Probably.
But it's the truth. Anybody that has listened to you, anybody that's met you, anybody that's seen you at a racetrack and watch you interact with riders and fans and the teams that you work with, and you work with a lot of different teams. I have yet to meet someone that goes, "Oh God, I can't stand that dude." So, it's that's a real testament to you and working your way up through everything for sure. I have a comment on the World of Outlaws.
Yes.
Um, it just so happens that you work with someone that is always, I think, always does the Chili Bowl. Doesn't Ralph always do the Chili Bowl?
He goes to Chili Bowl. We actually hung out. He sat with me last year. It wasn't this year. Yeah, last year. I didn't go this year. I had ice racing going on. I mean, I could have made the Wednesday night show and then you get the Chili Bowl cold, the Chili Bowl flu or whatever. So I
Right.
skipped it because I wanted to be able to talk. I had ice racing on both weekends. But yeah, Ralph goes. He doesn't commentate for it anymore, but he still goes and talks about his speed sport, the SS1, the speed
Yeah.
sport. So, but yeah, no, I don't know. I love the World of Outlaws. To me, it's flat track, but it's in cars, and they still pitch it sideways going in the corners, and
Oh yeah.
it's one of the greatest shows on dirt. But yeah, Johnny Gibson's not going anywhere. So
Well, I'll tell you though, I'll just throw this out there.
yeah.
But if you were, say, hanging out with Ralph
Yeah.
at a Chili Bowl live on Off the Groove,
Yeah. That'd be fun.
I'm just saying.
That'd be fun. So on that note, I got to tell you a story. So the past 2 years in England, on a Wednesday night, we go to the Oxford. It's right by London, Oxford, where the Oxford University is. We go to the Oxford Speedway, and it's a teamed event, and they got a glassed-in area. We sit in there and have dinner, and then at a certain time, they come and get our table and take us to the infield because of who we are or who I'm with or whatever. So it's just kind of like a little bonus to go to the middle of the racetrack. Well, what I found last year is the commentators don't say anything during the race. They just sit there and let the race happen. After the race, they tell us who did this and whatever position, and then the next announcer sets up the next race. So I'm in the middle of the track. I don't know anybody on the racetrack. There's only four, so it's not like it's
Right.
hard, but I don't have a program. I don't know anybody's names, but the home teams wear the bonnets on their hats. The blue, and I think it was blue and yellow bonnets were the home team. The other teams were wearing white and red. So I explained that, the home team, blah, blah, blah. I set it all up. Well, they recorded on Instagram Live on the DTRA Instagram. It's still posted on their page, but I announced a race and from the infield of the racetracks, we're turning around doing circles because it's a quarter mile, and
Right.
man, I had a blast, and I got so much feedback just from doing that, and I've never done a speedway race before, but it's a race, and I was just
Yeah.
saying, hey, this guy just went high and that opened up the door for so and so, and I just did my thing, and you know what? I had so much fun doing that, and you know, it's just little stuff like that that you know, I don't know. It's
But
just fun
just
stuff.
saying, there's something to be said for that, so
Exactly,
something to
exactly.
think about for
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I think we're definitely running. We're probably past time, but whatever.
Yeah.
Cole's not here to yell at me,
Well,
although
he crashed. He crashed already.
he hasn't texted me back, but he keeps jumping in and out of my screen,
Okay.
or at least his
Little icon.
little icon. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but
He
but
crashed his computer.
as far as I know, we're recording, so I think we're good. And
Cool.
if you want to hang out while we wrap up, man, we're just gonna you gotta have your special thanks and your sponsors and shout out for Off the Groove also. Let her rip.
Right. That's just the biggest thing, you know, just, you know, I thanks to all the people that I work for, you know, American Flat Track. I've been there 16 years in a row and, you know, Endurocross circuit, the World Championship Ice Racing, you know, series that's pretty much my bread and butter. It kind of keeps me busy. And then I work for Steve Nace Racing at amateur races. I want to say thanks to RPM. I did quite a few of their races this season. And, you know, just, you know, I just want to keep doing my thing. If and Ralph's line, I'm sure he probably said it on your podcast too, is if you're paying, I'm saying, well,
Right.
it holds true. You know, if there's a paycheck out there, and if I can make it fit into my schedule, I want to be there. You know, I want to go to as many races as I can. I'm not going to be young and available to do this my whole life, so I just want to go to have have as much fun at the racetrack as I can and do my job and then move on down the road. So, and thank you for having me on again. I know we came on to talk about Endurocross. We went into flat track and went into quite a bit about me, but you know, I just appreciate what you're doing and I certainly missed you all season long. Definitely at Endurocross and I saw you a few times at American Flat Track. But thanks to everything that you're doing too.
For sure. Yeah, and man, I love having you on because well, I love it and I hate it because you're such a professional that I usually sound like kind of a bumbling idiot, but it is what it is. I mean, people that know me know that's how I am, right? So, um, our big thing is we take having fun seriously.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so we jump around. That's why I don't run a format. I couldn't stick to it even if we did. So, speaking of which, you need to thank your family.
Well, yeah, my family is very important. Graham and Paul for sure. Graham is my biggest supporter. She's 92 years old. She watches more races than I do. She texts me not every night, but almost every night when the sprint cars are done, whatever sprint car series she's watching, she texts me. She watches more racing than I do. So thanks to Grandpa for for believing in me, being my biggest fans. Thanks to my mom and dad for the way they raised me. It's made me the man I am right now. And thanks to my daughter too for I'm gone a whole lot. I miss a lot of things. I try to make up for it during the week when I'm home or whenever I can. I try to go see my daughter as much as possible, and just my whole family for understanding my crazy schedule because I miss a lot of family events and
Mhm.
it sucks, but it is they all know, they're all proud of me. They tell me that, and that makes it worthwhile too. But yeah, it's just all that little stuff right there that I just mentioned. But thanks to my girlfriend Michelle, she puts up with my crap and she's pretty dang awesome. So
Yeah. And what about you got Off the Groove? Find you on Instagram, the @ symbol Off the Groove TV, all one word.
yes, sir. Yep. And that's the biggest thing. And I do post on Facebook. I try to share the podcast on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook user, but I'll get on there and just see what's going on here and there. But yeah, my biggest thing, my biggest social media, I guess, is probably Instagram. I do have my own
Yep.
personal @ Scottie Deubler. But either one, follow me on there. I try to post Throwback Thursday stuff here and there. I mostly do that on my social medias and where I'm at. Like, I've been trying to do some like where's Scotty at instead of like where's Waldo.
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
Scotty
Yeah.
at? Just to try to have some fun stuff. And thanks to my patrons who sponsor the podcast, just people who support me and like me enough to help me out. I appreciate everybody and I appreciate all my listeners too.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, and it's always a pleasure to have you on. And we love Cole, even though, I'm an Android guy and a PC guy. So the Mac crash is you
It's,
know,
it's
he is just going, oh, he's gonna rip me so bad on this, and I
yeah,
am. It's gonna be
yeah,
fun. But Scotty, always love having you on. Thank you so much.
right on.
We appreciate it. Want to take a quick second, thank our partners and sponsors: Kicker Performance Audio, Kicker Marine Audio, Kicker Real Marine Audio, Kicker Personal Audio. Find them online, kicker.com, my bad, and on Instagram at Kicker Audio, on Facebook, Kicker. Every other Tuesday night live on their TV show Kicker Unmasked Live on YouTube and Facebook. Of course, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear, Bomber Badass Eyewear. You want to be a badass? Wear Bomber Eyewear, just like the Mad Dog. Check them out. BomberEyewear.com, on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. When you hit the cart and you got it loaded up, use that discount code MAddOG20, MAddOG20. Let them know the Mad Dog sent you. Of course, the Premix Podcast and our dude Cole sharing his love for all things desert racing through the lens of a camera. Man, hit him up on Instagram, the @ symbol, ThePremixPodcast. And be sure and slide into his DMs and give him a hard time about that Mac crash. I can't wait. Of course, Kelsey Morrell Film, taking all my video mess and making it into beautiful, watchable film on our YouTube channel, Mad Dog Media. And she also cuts up all those shorts that you all have been watching on our YouTube and does the final production audio for us. You can find her on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film. Hey Geeks Marketing takes care of all of our logo stuff, all of our social media templates. If you need anything from a website done to social media influencer campaign or just a social media account built, yell, Hey Keeks, or find her online, heykeeks.com, or on Instagram at Hey Keeks Marketing. Scotty, parting remarks, anything?
Man, I had a blast like we always do, man. It's good to see you, and
It's always so much fun.
keep living that dream.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, Scotty, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Folks, thank you for hanging in. Hopefully, Kelsey gets this all chopped up and it sounds a lot smoother than what happened about 7/8 the way through. So, with that, folks, thank you so much. God bless our troops. God bless our first responders. God bless our veterans. God bless you, our listeners. God bless America. Mad Dog out.